This is going to be a restart of a stupid little project I wanted to do years ago about the Unreal Engine version 1 game, Unreal. This is mostly about me editing Unreal 1 and Unreal 2 engine in a minimalistic way to do a bunch of videos about stuff I do for fun. Also, to be a basic introduction to 3D editing and basically a game engine, because they're usually streamlined for the purpose of make something to play something. Next, specifically Unreal 2 engine being 13 megabytes across with editor and some example files at the most minimal download with literally nothing bad about it. One of my favorites. It's missing some features I really desperately need compared to Unreal 1, which is weird, but you get the idea. As an introduction, this will be done for that purpose. Now, I'm going to be specifically doing an edit or an alteration or a mod to the game that I wanted to do for Unreal 1 that modified it to use unused content and or only partially used. So I'm going to list them. One of the levels, quote unquote, barely, called Entry is a deathmatch waiting area. You're in a video game, you go into multi-user access, and instead of a waiting screen, you're in a little room with a mirror in it, and it's a little jail cell, and you're sitting there, and that's your existence. You're just in the room. And it's part of a group of cells that are implied but not shown. There's a second version of that if you get a later version of the game, Unreal, Game of the Year edition or Gold edition or whatever, where they made a second version of it that has a lot more rooms in it and it has activities. It's not so boring. I'm going to be editing it as someplace to go to and escape. I'm going to make an escape route because I can. The idea here is to make it to where it's a level that you can play into from a specific source. The next one is the Gateway. It's a 7-portal deactivated space station with a nice view of the planet you're supposed to be having this game occur on, a planet called Pali. That's a poor pronunciation. Sorry about that for y'all. There's also the ending cinematic, which normally you can't go into, but it is something I know how to do to put in extra entry points. I'm going to make it to where you can drop into it and look around in the ending cinematic. I'm going to make it also to where you can shut off the music. One of my complaints about video games is invisible walls and inaccessible areas that a normal person would be able to reach. Putting up a wall to keep people from leaving your map is extremely poor practice. You're not supposed to make it obvious and an illusion-breaking thing by putting up an invisible wall. Put up a visible one. Or don't put up the walls at all and let them wander around. It really does make me angry. And that's why the entry level, even though it has an implication that it's a jail cell, will be made to where you can escape. I'm just not going to explain how. It'll be like an Easter egg. If you were in it and waiting for a game to start online, if for some reason you're still running Unreal 1, people do that if you're not aware. I'm joking. There's a lot of people who still play this. If you escape it, you can still go back into the... it'll still grab you, drag you kicking and screaming into the tournament. The next thing is the ending cinematic has no reason for anybody to walk around in it, but most of it flies by, literally and figuratively, so fast, a lot of people would like to be able to look around in it. And making it to where there's a bunch of little tunnel pathways to where you can go up and down ladders and look around and see it and have little under construction signs and what are you doing here, you don't belong here kind of things. That's something I like seeing in video games, like Duke Nukem 3D. There was a lot of that done because while it was made as difficult as possible to get to certain areas, Level Lord specifically put lots of messages places because he knew that he couldn't make it impossible. A true 3D game, by the way, Duke Nukem 3D wasn't really 3D, it was 2.5D. A true 3D game can't really prevent you from getting somewhere if the game includes a jetpack. It's the way it is. And in the case of Unreal, part of these are flybys. You're literally flying. If the game glitches, you could drop into one of these areas. Some of the stuff implies that. Now, again, this is just for Unreal 1. I'm only altering these. The Gateway is a portal set to go to other levels, but they were turned off. I'm turning them back on and going to 7 specific locations. And then there will be other locations. Obviously, I'm going to add in more than 7 portals. There's like 30 levels to go to. Main levels would be a lower number. So I'll be doing that. And I might put these other jump points in other parts, like the entry or the endgame cinematic or whatever. And the gateway is a central hub to go to them. It's a logical place to start, but you can't go there unless you run the game and it's run on a server that decides to use the gateway portal to go from one place to another instead of a waiting area. Nobody really does that. So I'm going to alter it to be just in the game as an Easter egg activity. So how am I going to introduce this? I've already done a video on this, but the Unreal game engine presumes by default that you're going to run a level called Unreal, and it's spelled capital U Unreal .UNR or whatever, but it could be any extension. The thing can do wildcards apparently at one point. And I have backup copies of some of the beta copies that are literally the entire game. They're almost exactly the same original game. And I'm going to be modifying some of them with mod files or mutators or whatever they're called. Depending on where you're looking at, people get these mixed up. What it is it's a diff file that edits all of the levels in the game as long as it's the right version to include whatever you're editing in. I'm going to try to do that as well as an experiment. But the one I'm going to edit completely, I've already done a video about, the Unreal Flyby intro. I've made it to where you fly by and then it drops you on the ground and it drops you onto an item. It has to be some kind of item that gives you the ability to read messages. So I made it a translator. That's the thing in the game that lets you read a message. It only shows up on the screen. It won't let you activate the translator properly, but you get the idea. And the next thing is it lands on a function that turns off the music, so you have basically the same game level kind of thing. The rest of it, if anybody hasn't noticed it, is I've done videos about editing that level to where it doesn't crash. It was a level that was built completely and then stripped down to become the intro, or it really was built as a game level and then turned into another one and then stripped afterwards, depending on how you look at it. It's one of the oldest files. It's around 800 kbytes. By now, after just descripting it, removing shit that isn't needed, and doing only just making it to where you can walk around and make it to where you don't fall through the floor or clip and die, the edits have got it to where it's actually smaller space. And then I started cutting out rooms and started doing things. I'm doing it in the most conservative way possible by copying other layers around and using them as subtractor brushes to cut rooms with the same kind of content that was there. The idea is not to add any new content. And I got it to where it only got a little bit bigger than the original. I'll be doing a speed run, how to edit the Unreal Flyby intro video. I've already done separate sections, more of a slideshow than anything else, but that's going to be something I want to do. My challenge to myself is get to the point that I could get a raw copy of Unreal that always includes the editor, no matter how good or bad it is, and go through and alter it to where when you start the game, you land in this, and you can jump to every other level that I mentioned, the entry, the gateway, and the ending cinematic, and look around as sort of a look behind the scenes, Easter egg, if you're willing to go through the flyby all the way to the end and it drops you. I'd like to make it to where it runs the flyby 4 times and then drops you, to where you have to really want to sit there and watch the flyby, like a screensaver, and have it drop you and have make it, some snotty remark like, oh God, the game crashed. Well, now what will I do? I really shouldn't look around, something like that. Now, addressing another thing. I'm going to deliberately make it to where it works on every version that had the flyby only. What that means is this will work as a in-place differential edit, whatever it's really called, mutator? I'm going to make it to where it alters the game, no matter how old or new it is, through the scripting routine to do the full edit of just the Unreal flyby, the ending cinematic, the gateway, and the entry if they're visible. If they're not all there, it won't do anything other than alter just the Unreal flyby. And if it's not available because it's an older beta, it won't modify anything. I don't want to make it to where it alters the game to where it would be a copyright violation if possible. However, there's no rule against it. They have no problem with it. And I'm fully able to make full copies of this. Since they're literally 2 megabytes or less, I will be PK zipping them and turning them into archived files with a password that says Unreal, if I ever do it. Now, if you're watching this video, it may have an addendum and a time and date stamp that's after it's uploaded that says, here's where you grab the files. And that'll be it. So why would I do this? I made it my goal to learn how to do 3D editing. I wanted to learn Blender, but Blender is a pain in the ass. And I wanted to modify games, same thing, because of the restrictions, stupid restrictions. You can't go here. Why not? Anybody would be able to climb there. It's a set of stairs. Nope, it's restricted. I remove those. I'm also going to do the same thing, not to Unreal 2, which was a horrible, horrible sequel. I don't know. I mean, really, it was just dumb. I'm going to be doing it to the Unreal 2 runtime environment that was used for training people in colleges and schools because it's available. And again, the licensing on it says that it's perpetually available. So it's on archive.org and they can't take it down. They can't even sue to get rid of it because they gave it away. That one comes with levels that I also altered to get rid of everything I hate about it in level design. This is not going to be a training video or a tutorial on proper game design. This is going to be a sort of tutorial on what pisses me off in video games that's unnecessarily there and shows really poor decision making on the part of the authors. Make your game to where it naturally directs people to where you want them to go. Let them explore. Don't put up artificial barriers. If you make something look like it's climbable and then you punish them, you're an asshole. Don't do that. Be a level lord, not a level asshole. Okay? Be a good author. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.